What's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in. Tonight, we have Kevin Kellum filling in for Rico El Glorioso, and you are watching
that thing right? Am I doing the El Glorioso thing right?
You gotta do that. But this is the only show on Sportskeeda Wrestling that covers AEW and NXT. This is the Debrief. I'm your host, Jose G, and filling in for Rico El Glorioso is Kevin Kellum, and we're coming off of a hot episode of AEW Dynamite, Blood and Guts. Man, and that delivered. That main event was ridiculous. It was crazy. It delivered on blood and guts. The finish, like we say in Spanish, más o menos, more or less, a little bit. Pero, people are talking about it, which is probably the most important thing. People are talking about this this match and this show, and it was historic. We had Inner Circle go up against the Pinnacle. Pinnacle, like you called it earlier today, came out on top.
But
it was a great show for not only Inner Circle, but for the Pinnacle. MJF getting to throw Jericho off the top of the cage and just some crazy insanity. But we're going to cover all of that tonight, guys. But before we get started, make sure you follow us on all of the social medias.
Do it.
Make sure you share tonight's show in your favorite wrestling group. If you're watching us right now on Facebook, and if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit that big old subscribe button and smash that notification bell so that way you always know when we have a brand new video, brand new content, and when we go live for breaking news like we do daily. Right now, we got tons of exclusive content coming out, and tomorrow we got a brand new show debuting with Kev Kellum. Tell him who you have tomorrow in your brand new show, The Inside Cradle.
The Inside Cradle tomorrow afternoon. I will have with me Rick Ochino. We're launching a new show that is like a catch-all of everything going on in the week of wrestling. If you don't catch all these individual shows, I don't want to watch a post show. I want to watch a review. I get that. Some people are like that. Maybe you're catching a little bit of this. You're just going. This is every big topic in wrestling with the biggest names in wrestling in one episode. The greatest hits of the wrestling week, maybe some of the greatest shits of the wrestling week. We'll cover them all. But we have a man who is absolutely hit. He is at the top of the WWE, Drew McIntyre, an exclusive interview about his brand new book, My Chosen Destiny, which is out now. He tells us about a match he wants to make with a big combat sports star, and it could be one of the biggest matches featuring a wrestler versus a non-wrestler, and it could be a very big thing, especially if you're in the UK. You're going to want to hear this. Also, if you're a Rocky 3 fan, you're going to want to hear this. If you're a fan of Thunder Lips, how does Drew McIntyre play into that? We'll talk about it in general. People already jumping into the chat here. Get your comments on screen. People sounding off their thoughts here. Other people feeling that we had maybe a better NXT show. Maybe NXT, even with blood and guts and the double cage and the war games and a pay-per-view match that is on free television and blood on television. No guts. Guts were advertised. No, it's okay. John Clark saying he thinks NXT was easily better. Other people, I guess, comparing this obviously to the NXT War Games matches. This was a War Games match. This was 5-on-5. This was MJF versus his group, the Pinnacle, versus Chris Jericho. A very bloody affair. It was not clean. It was not a technical masterpiece, but is it supposed to be? It's not exactly supposed to be that.
No.
This was wild. And it ends with Jericho nearly being pushed off the top of the cage by a bloody MJF who used his ring to bash Jericho in the head. And Sammy Guevara, to help his faithful leader, says, we surrender. You can't pin. There's no pinfalls. There's only submission or surrender. You just openly say we're done. Like we call it off. All right. And that's what he does. And then MJF still pushes him off the top of the cage.
Yeah, I mean, what a way to get heat, right? I mean,
what a no good son
the scum of the earth.
I believe Tony Schiavone called him a piece of shit.
He did. He sure the hell did call him a piece of shit.
He had one of those left in there. James Espanto says, Big Kev, Being a bigger person, choosing the Pinnacle even after MJF treated. Yes, MJF. About 2 years ago, I did an interview with him, and he was so MJF in the interview that he demanded on Twitter that I lose my job, that I should not be employed. So thank you, MJF. You no good rat bastard. That's what you did tonight. No, there was a lot of craziness in this. This had some rough parts, but this was wild. This was bloody. If you wanted an all-out brawl inside of a cage, you got it. And the cage looked beautiful, didn't it?
It really did. I thought it looked better than the one from NXT, to be honest. However, let's talk about all the craziness that went down inside during the match, because, there was a point where they were dismantling the ring, taking off the turnbuckles, lifting up the padding, exposing the plywood underneath the mat. And we got a spot there with the double pile drivers that Sammy Guevara delivered over to the FTR. That was kind of insane. That was a really good spot. Just so many great areas, man, and just so good performances from both sides. I really thought that the Inner Circle had the upper hand there for a moment, just because they were so dominant in the early 3/4 of the match. It wasn't until the final moments when the match ended up in the very top of the cage is when it kind of shifted around. But if that wouldn't have happened, because the other thing that happened is that Tully Blanchard interfered in this match during commercial break. All right. He knocks out the referee, opens the gate, and allows MJF to get out to the top of the cage. So there was definitely some more shenanigans involved than we thought in this match, with Tully Blanchard getting involved there. But if that wouldn't have happened, I think Inner Circle would have probably gotten that one.
If you guys are with us, go ahead and share the link so you don't stink. Tag us in your wrestling groups, wherever you guys are watching or listening from. You have those Facebook groups. Go drop us in one of those instead of just another
drop
meme.
It in there.
A meme that's been reposted from another meme. This is some, I believe the term is OC, not Orange Cassidy. It is some original content. So pass on the love. And if you have a friend who loves to post stuff on screen, hear about it. This was a great match, but it's going to be compared to the War Games matches that NXT has done recently, and obviously the classic ones from back in the day. I would struggle to say it's better than some of those War Games matches, because they had such finesse and pace and some wild things. But this was still a really fun main event. It delivered. It was really long. But it lent itself to being really long because they did the entrances and the sequences, because it took them like 20 minutes to get in here. Some people not a fan of it. Eason Walker saying the show is terrible. I don't know if I could say it was terrible.
And he's not the only person that's chiming out. Already immediately before I went on to the show, I started scrolling through the socials to see what people are saying. And it's kind of a mixed reaction right now. People didn't like it. Some people loved it. So it's really a 50-50. I myself, in my opinion, I felt the majority of the show was really good. And a matter of fact, the blood and guts match wasn't even my favorite part. My favorite part was when Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky took out Darby Allin. And we're gonna that was brutal. We're gonna jump into that in just a moment. But I thought like the whole flow of the match was good. You had the violence part of it, you had the blood part of it. But that finish, I felt like the finish was just, why did Sammy have to quit? Why was it only Sammy? Why wasn't the rest of the Inner Circle pleading for Jericho not to be thrown off the top of the cage? If you're going to do it, sell it some more.
Want to show this to you here on screen and zoom in on this. Obviously, this is the unique presentation of tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite. I lost the tweet there. Somebody sent this to me. I thought this was really interesting here. Read this here. As somebody said, they went to the show, and I can't even get it. Whatever. So they went to the show. And the crazy thing is, they only saw the cage match. They only got the cage match that they went live to.
Really? Wow.
And I know the main two matches. We had Jurassic Park. We had the Acclaimed. We had SCU, who were very successful, winning that 4-way corner match. They get the title shot against the Young Bucks. I believe that's next week. Am I correct in that?
Yep.
And they have that ongoing storyline with SCU that if they lost another tag team match, they would be done. That Christopher Daniels has cost Kazarian, his longtime tag team partner, too many losses, and they won. This one was fun. Very solid match. If you love your AEW run around, have a whole bunch of things in one match storyline, and they have near falls that count because of the gimmick, it played off. It was very, very strong match. I guess they only saw that match and the cage match, and everything else in the show is taped. Everything else.
Really?
And then they did some promos in front of the cage that we saw with Miro.
We did see that.
Miro saying he's going to get Darby Allin next week, and Kenny Omega, who will get the winner of Orange Cassidy and Pac. And they had Kenny Omega and Orange Cassidy face off here. This was odd that they would go that route. I mean, this is something I think some fans knew in advance, but many people didn't. This particular fan tweeting at me and tagging me in it, he tweeted several people saying, "I'm at Blood and Guts. Notice the ring is empty. On screen there is wrestling first hour taped and the second hour is live. I spent money sign. Most I've ever spent. Never again." So some fans locally, and there was I believe over 1,500 fans in attendance for this 2-match card presenting live. I don't know.
How would you feel if you dropped a good dime to go see a match, to go see a badass show?
I guess when people got there,
the first half is taped.
Yeah, I guess when they got there, and the show was not sold out, and they did 1,500 fans, so they had a real crowd. So people that bought tickets today that were coming in and may have felt like that, but in advance online, it was known. I don't know how well it was known. It's one of those things where you just hear about it, you don't read, you don't follow the dirt sheets and all that stuff. But I could see where some people were robbed. I mean, here's the thing: if you wanted a blood and guts match, you got a blood and guts match. If you wanted a War Games match, you got it here. Matt Townsend saying, "Great work in the ring by the talent. Trash finish, but still better than Raw or SmackDown." I feel some people felt robbed by that finish.
And that's the point that I was trying to make earlier, that there's a lot of people that didn't like how the way that particular match finished. But let's talk about a pretty good match that went down on Dynamite. That was probably one of the pre-recorded ones. Cody Rhodes versus QT Marshall. Now, I wasn't clear if this match was a no DQ match or not. I didn't think that it was, but this match should be just thrown out of the books because Arn Anderson got involved in this match. He hit QT. QT responded back. That should have been an automatic DQ. I wasn't informed that this was a no DQ match, but they kept going with the match like nothing. Tons of false finishes. QT hits the crossroads on Cody. Cody kicks out. Cody hits a tombstone pile driver and a crossroads. QT also kicks out. So they're trying to go for this 5-star match. It was a pretty darn good match. I'm not going to lie. Cody Rhodes was able to get the win on QT. But did you get to catch most of this match? And what were your thoughts on this back and forth match?
It's a fun back and forth match, but it didn't feel like it got the time to be as special as I think it should have been, for lack of a better phrase. I mean, that's really just nitpicking. But it's kind of rare that you see Cody wrestle now. He hasn't really been in a lot of matches the past few months. Obviously, he's got a baby on the way, and they've kind of pulled back from him. So I can understand that. And he had the other reality shows thing. So it felt special to see Cody out there after not seeing him for a few months, at least week to week. There's obviously more teeth in this. I felt going to this match, we were going to get more QT Cody matches, and the finish definitely lent itself to the idea that you're going to get more of Cody's American Nightmare family versus the Factory. I don't mind QT versus Cody and some supporting players, but it's getting noisy around the ring. It's my one thing with AEW is just let two guys have a match without a million other people outside the ring. The thing is, if you did this in WWE, people would lose their minds. They would just be like, just let the wrestlers wrestle. You have to do all these gimmicks around the ring. They do it there on Wednesday nights, and they get the pass. It's a double standard. It's a real double standard. There's some things that AEW gets to do all the time, a lot of the time. Yeah, that they haven't burned out fans' patience with. They get the benefit of being new and fresh, and fans wanting to pump them up and wanting them to feel otherworldly. But you can wear people out over time. Those are the things that people stack up against you when they want to make their big nerdy case. But it was a strong match. Can you say it was the best match of the night? No, that was the blood and guts match.
It was a notable match, though.
It was
exactly. You're absolutely right. But like I said earlier, my favorite part of tonight was actually the Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky promo calling out Sting and Darby Allin. And I don't know if you've catch me on my other show, Weekends of Wrestling, but I'm always talking. I don't hate Sting, but I just think that he does not need to be in AEW right now. I've been a proponent of why are you there? Why are you there? Bringing him out week after week. You're losing the mystique. Thank God they stopped bringing him week after week and doing interviews week after week with Siobhan. But this week, we had Scorpio Sky call out Sting in the middle of Daly's place, up in the decks over there, and he let it be known, we don't want you here. Your stay has been over-welcomed. And Ethan Page backed him up. And at the same time, Ethan Page called out Darby Allin, referencing to his history that they've had all around the world, and that the reason that Darby Allin wears that face paint is because Ethan Page made a dent in his skull. So he puts the face paint on purpose to hide that dent that Ethan Page caused. While Ethan Page is talking, Darby Allin attacks him from behind, ambushes him. He gets a little bit of an upper hand, even hits a coffin drop from one of the barricades outside in the back. But that wasn't enough. Ethan Page was able to come back with Scorpio Sky, beat the living daylights out of Darby. They got close to the concrete stairs and shoved him down the stairs. Bye-bye, Darby Allin. I don't know if he's going to be recovered in time for next week's match against Miro, but it's about damn time.
Man, this is wild. That throw down the stairs was brutal. I don't know what Darby Allin's death wish is, but it doesn't matter. He just wishes for it all the time. He just does not mind taking these insane bumps, taking these insane risks. He will do it over and over and over again. And the praise has been on him recently that he's almost an in-house, not an in-house creation, but definitely a character that has been established on their brand on a wide scale. He was going to be a big breakout star. WWE apparently wanted him. Other people wanted him, and he went with AEW. And look, they benefited from it. Now, Sting having his back means something here. We have Christopher Cooper or Ryan Cooper saying Sting gets jumped last week, but now he's a no-show tonight when he should have been there. There's some truth to that in terms of following up things in that regard. But also, you're not going to have Sting get physical that often, and when he is, it's going to be a very specific way due to the injuries he suffered in the ring. So you'll like, that's why we only saw him in that pre-filmed cinematic match. And it was only done in a very certain way. And I've even heard some people say, well, he didn't even take bumps in that match. I was like, wow, I don't, there's no proof of that, but I don't know that. Get Darby Allin, Miro next week. Can he show up after the beating he took this week? Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky, I assume, will beat him even more. Something makes me think Miro gets out of that match with the title.
I hope so, man. Like I've been saying this for weeks that Miro needs to be the double champion. He needs to be the one to take the belt not only off of Darby Allin, but also off of Kenny Omega. You have a top star in your hands and you're not doing anything with him. This is Miro's moment. If Darby Allin survives next week, I'm probably going to boycott AEW.
Don't say that. You're not going to boycott.
No, I'm not.
I'm going to boycott. At what point are we doing these podcasts and people are saying, Tony, get it together, Tony? And they start talking about Tony Khan. They start referencing the guy who runs a multi-million-dollar wrestling promotion on a first name basis. When that happens,
get it together, Tony.
Come on, TK. I learned to name and now I say it with a sense of resentment and entitlement about someone I'm never going to meet and talk to on a first name basis. I can't just be entertained. And when I'm not entertained, I don't know how to change a channel. Calm down. Get over yourself.
I know.
I have no problem dunking on people. If you enjoy me dunking on people, hit the like button. Hit that like button. Let's crack 100 likes if we can on this video.
No, we did have an opening matchup for tonight's AEW Dynamite. We got to see the tag match, Kenny Omega and Michael Nakazawa going up against John Moxley and Eddie Kingston However, Don Callis came out before the match even started to announce that Kenny Omega is not going to be here at the match. So Nakazawa was forced to, go up at it alone on a 2-on-1 handicap match up against Mox and Kingston. However, the Mox and Kingston music hits. They come out and they get blindsided by Kenny Omega, taking them out both with the AEW title, then therefore starting off the tag match. But man, Kenny Omega just gave up halfway through the match. He's like, I'm not going to put up with this. You take care of this, Nakazawa. And Moxley and Kingston get the win over Nakazawa, just to be jumped after the match by the Elite.
Mm-hmm. Lame. Just lame. Just like I get where it's a heel and he does heel things, right? But I don't know. Sometimes it's just like I guess you're just supposed to be is Kenny Omega supposed to be a chicken shit heel now? Like, is he supposed to be the guy who runs from the fight? When we just saw these guys, when we saw him, do the badass, merciless monster match at Impact, and he took the title off Rich Swann and won clean, and had this, I'll get crazy, John. You want to have a barbed wire exploding death match? I'll do that, and I'll have all my goons with me. They're losing me here, and they're losing me with the top program and the top guy. And they're doing things that feel I don't want to say redundant, but underwhelming for the character. It's almost like, I guess, for the function of a storyline, you have to have somebody, hit a powder and get out of there and say like, you didn't get me. Are you gonna chase me? I don't know. I don't know what favors this does for Kenny Omega, but mind you, the guy has 4 belts. What does he care?
That's true. I think, you know what? And I can kind of understand where you're coming from, because even though, he is the heel, the cowardly heel champion, and he had a really great match with Rich Swann. But I think what's happening here is, I think it's the Don Callis effect. I'm not sure if that's a thing, but if it isn't, I'm making it a thing, because I feel like Don Callis is bringing down his character. Especially since you already have all of the Elite behind them, which are already a bunch of scumbags in character. That should be more than enough. You don't need Don Callis. And Kenny Omega can talk for himself on the mic. He's really good at it. I thought his promo today with Orange Cassidy being the pompous champion, you want to face me, you're not even on my level. I think that's great. But Don Callis being the mouthpiece for Kenny Omega, I don't think he needs it. I think it actually brings him down. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that?
I think Don Callis adds something to it, but obviously Kenny Omega can go out there and cut his own kind of, who am I thinking of? The big AWA champion Nick Bockwinkel. That's what they're going for. They're going for Nick Bockwinkel, where Nick Bockwinkel had Bobby Heenan to cut promos, and then, Kenny Omega could do that on top of himself. Oddly, when they had Kenny Omega come out there and cut a promo later on the night on the guys who will compete to get the title shot at him at the pay-per-view, Double or Nothing, which is expected to be in front of a full house, by the way. That's going to be crazy. There's no Don Callis. So we have Don Callis earlier in the night, and we don't have Don Callis, and we have Mike. I don't know. The presentation kind of wavered, and so this was a one-match show to me. This is a one-match show with a handful of angles on it that were and maybe 2 matches. We also, we had the tag match and stuff like that. Britt Baker looks strong, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, this was one match show. It was blood and guts.
Yeah, that's what it was really all about. It was really all about blood and guts. But a few side notes. We now know that Britt Baker will be facing Hikaru Shida at Double or Nothing. That was announced tonight. And then also, you mentioned at the top of the show, the winner between Pac and Orange Cassidy will be facing Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega at Double or Nothing. We did also get to see a 4-way tag team eliminator, number 1 contenders match for the tag team titles. SCU got the big win on there, hitting the BME on Brian Pillman Jr. Did you see Brian Pillman wearing his daddy shorts?
It was something else. Going to be featured on the upcoming Dark Side of the Ring. It's a 2-part episode. Vice, which airs that it's their 3rd season now? 3rd season of that documentary series about the dark side of wrestling. That's the point of the series. They have I believe that episode is coming out either tomorrow. I believe it premieres. and you can watch the first part of it on YouTube for free right now.
Awesome. All right, man. Some more notes here. Last night we had NXT. We had a huge title change, the NXT Women's Tag Team title match. We had a street fight between Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart going up against who's my new favorite women's wrestler, Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae. First, I have to say, this was a huge outing for Indy Hartwell last night. That springboard elbow drop, her power, everything that she was doing last night was amazing. And I'm just happy that both Candice and Indy were able to become champions after being there for 4 or 5 years already.
Well due for Candice to get a belt. This is her first title in WWE.
This is her first one.
Yeah. And you know, she came into WWE with all that praise. And a lot of people wanting to sign her, a lot of people wanting her to go. I don't think AEW was just kind of a kernel in people's minds at that point. But, you know, some people thought she'd be great there. And she was so big in PWG and on the independents. She was a hot prospect. A lot of people thought she'd just walk in there and get the title. And Io Shirai came in. And then Rhea Ripley became a star. And then you kind of saw Candice just being like this almost gatekeeper, which was not a bad role to be in. You know, some people like that, but those are the people that can be replaced too. So you were like, oh wow, she's gonna get lost in the shuffle here, and now here she is in this unique role, which is very sports entertainment. Is very wrestling is important to it, as we saw last night, but she's really doing some great character work with Johnny and doing all these ridiculous, goofy things. People say so NXT great. Is too serious. This was a serious match, but they are not a serious faction. They are a very goofy, lighthearted faction. The closest NXT has really gotten to doing some type of comedy you would see on Being the Elite, where, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what they're doing. They're mocking the idea of this holier than thou faction that is just all catty and weird, and they have love triangles. It sounds like too much on paper, but when they play it out, work good. Ember Moon and Shotzi, they'll be fine. They will be fine. I didn't get any impression that they're buried or anything like that. And this is a solid match, solid main event. They gave the women a lot of time. NXT with the women, they have never missed. They've never missed in terms of going with them in that main event spot. Almost every time they give them the main event on television, the women's division, which I think is the top women's division, all of televised wrestling right now, NXT delivers. And this is something special. People are critical that they have those women's tag belts. But this is a match that kind of made those belts feel validated.
They did. Yeah, I completely agree with that statement, just because the magnitude of, first of all, not only just Indy and Candice becoming champions, but it was just the way that it happened. Like, it was a street fight, but there wasn't like unnecessary interferences from the outside. Johnny wasn't there. Austin Theory wasn't there because they were trying to escape what had happened from Karrion Kross early in the night. So they pretty much won that match clean. And that has a lot to say to beating those, the former tag team champions. But great match. I thought it was fantastic to close out last night's NXT, but it was the way that it opened.
I don't mean to cut you off. Can we talk about this, Stephen Chambers? Can we talk about that Frankie Monet, formerly known as Ty Valkyrie?
Love her.
Impact
love her.
She's a character basically in NXT. They're really introducing her as this over the top, ridiculous, mean, rich woman character. And she has her pretty dog, her foo-foo dog, who pooped, did a number 2, was a bad dog.
Defecated. He definitely was a bad dog.
Inside of a tank, inside of Shotzi Blackheart's tank.
Bad Frankie.
Bad Frankie. That's a ridiculous wrestling thing, right? Why are we going to have this match? Because my dog shit in your tank.
That's why.
Only in wrestling does something like that happen. Only in wrestling.
Why does it smell so bad? it was great. But
if your dog, chat challenge, if you're watching the stream or you're watching on demand, if your dog could poop on the lawn of any wrestling star of all time, and you just act like the dog didn't do it, you are a bad dog walker. You don't clean up after your dog's mess. Let us know in the chat. I'm being as ridiculous about that as possible. I'm not wishing dog poop on anyone.
Bring the ridiculousness on. Let's keep going through this show, man, because we got so much to cover here. Because on the opening match of NXT, we got to see a Falls Count Anywhere match. Isaiah Swerve Scott going up against Leon Ruff, finally squashing this beef. But it wasn't until the very end. I mean, because this match went all over the CWC. But it was towards the end that it was some interference. I forgot the guy's name, but it's a big dude that hangs out with Swerve in the production studio, who I think is also a talent. But he caught Leon Ruff as Leon Ruff was going for a crossbody on the outside, hits a DVD on the barricade, hitting Leon Ruff's neck, leaving him open for Isaiah Swerve Scott to hit his finisher and get the win. So that was a solid, that was solid. That's going to end like that. We knew something like that was going to happen in a Falls Count Anywhere match. We also got to see Cameron Grimes going up against a new Asher Hale. Have you heard of this guy, Asher Hale?
No, new face to WWE NXT, but what a time to reintroduce some new characters and get some new people in the mix. I mean, he didn't last long. Cameron Grimes getting the win, yelling to the back, telling Everrise that he doesn't want to be on their streaming talk show, Everrise Saturday mornings, and that he has to go to the VIP room. And
I wonder if we can get Everrise here on Sportskeeda.
It'd be fun. Maybe we get them to host.
Drink some coffee with them.
Yeah, drink some coffee with them. Their gimmick is they have ceramic coffee cups. That's their gimmick now. It's quite the gimmick to have, I guess. That was a weird thing, but hey, maximize your minutes, get on TV, and that's what this Asher character did. But back on that Swerve Scott Leon Ruff match, that was a hell of a match. And this was Swerve coming into his own, getting mean, getting nasty, hitting his finisher 3 times on Leon Ruff, one time outside the ring. And Leon finding a way as the baby face to get back. And you saw this mean streak that we've been seeing some semblance of with Swerve cutting his promos in the background. He came off as cold and callous, but still fast and furious. I would describe him as NXT's Randy Orton. He reminded me a lot of Randy Orton. He kept talking trash the whole match. His character came out of your speaker and off your screen, and now he has a group of bad dudes out to do bad things, including a big prospect in Top Dollar, who I've heard a lot of people talk about as being something potentially big in NXT, who interfered and helped him out. It's a Falls Count Anywhere match. It goes. I like this. Best match at Swerve has had on NXT so far. And Leon Ruff, you can take the pin, buddy. We gotta get these villains hot for the summer.
Yeah, man. Swerve Scott killed it last night, and I think he's really come in to his Swerve character, which is pretty much just an accentuation of who he is. Just kind of like with the volume turned up to 20, and he's doing a killer job with it right now. And that match last night was awesome. Another thing that was pretty awesome here, Kev, was the Karrion Kross promo. Karrion Kross just kind of sending a reminder to anyone who wants a championship, they need to step up. Out comes Cool Kyle. Then comes out Pete Dunne. Then we see the return of the Prince, Finn Balor, and they're all looking to get a shot at Karrion Kross's NXT title. Are you smelling a fatal 4-way here, Kev?
This felt very Raw or SmackDown when they want to do the multi-man matches and someone comes out, then someone comes out, then someone comes out, and we got multiple people, and guess what? We got a match. And it's a long way to get to a very reasonable, easy to reach conclusion. So that was my only issue with it. But this match can be a banger. So with NXT, when it's so wrestling driven and so between the bells, this was a very Raw or SmackDown thing to do on NXT.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see how this is a very Raw or SmackDown thing to do. But one thing that I do like that William Regal tends to do quite a bit when he ever sees situations like this, he'll maybe just do a triple threat match to determine a number 1 contender. So he's actually been really good about that. He doesn't do what Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville and doing, just putting triple threat matches or putting, fatal 4-way matches together just for the sake of putting it together. I hope William Regal takes that into account and, puts Finn Balor, puts Kyle and Pete Dunne in a triple threat, and whoever wins there gets a shot at Karrion Kross. I think that's the way to go.
I think it's the way to go. I mean, we definitely saw some fun stuff with Scarlett, just being able to convince William Regal to make certain matches that benefit her man, which I thought was interesting. She's casting spells. They had a somewhat testy scene between her and Austin Theory and Johnny Gargano running into William Regal's office. And Scarlett is there, and he's just looking down at her, a gorgeous woman in this low-cut top, and he goes, those are huge. And he referenced her weird, creepy, clawy nails.
Are those real or are those fake? Like, those nails are just amazing.
We know what you're getting at. What is this, 1999? Come on now. I'll say this. Scarlett's a very underrated character. I think she's a really, really underrated character. I think she's
she's grown on me.
I was speaking to some bias. I've known Scarlett for a long time. I worked with her in marketing and promoting radio stations and different things like that, and knew her on her way up in AAW. Cheap plug, AEW live on pay-per-view Friday, May 7th, Fight TV. Get your order in now. I'll be there. And when she was there, she did a lot of different dynamic things, but now she's playing a very calculated character that doesn't have to say a whole lot, but does a whole lot for her character, like for the character she supports in Karrion Kross. I like it. It reminds me of like a reverse Miss Elizabeth, almost.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And I like the supernatural aspect of it too.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to have a whole lot of dialect or any lines in order to portray that supernatural character that you are. Just with what she's wearing, one, and with that stoic face that she has. She just has that stoic face. I think the character is perfect for her, and she's growing on me. I wasn't really fond of her when she first came aboard. I was kind of like, I don't know. But now she's really
a real ice queen. A real ice queen, they say.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the NXT title picture is looking interesting. We'll see what happens next week. We also got to see some action from the new Japanese superstar making her way to NXT, Sarai, in her second match in NXT, going up against Reality of Wrestler Booker T School, Zeta Ramir, who made a huge impression last week with an amazing moonsault. Had a great match against Sarai, but Sarai was able to defeat her with an amazing Saito suplex, dropping Zeta Ramir right on the back of her neck. Brutal. But Sarai is quickly becoming one of my favorites. Quick little side detail. I don't know if you noticed this, but when Sarai came out the stage, when she came out through the platform, she came up.
Mm-hmm.
She's walking down. No expression. Not a smile. Mm-hmm. Not mean, just no expression. How did you take that? Because I almost felt like she didn't want to be there.
It's interesting, because there was a hot property when they signed her. There was a lot of hype coming over from Japan. They brought over a handful of people and have made stars at them. Some people think that Nakamura is no longer a star on SmackDown. I would argue he is and could be refreshed at any time. It's a deep bench that WWE has. I don't know. I also think Sarai is one of those characters where are we going to hear a language barrier? And is this a character that's going to need someone to speak for her? Or are we only going to hear her speak sporadically in limited ways? Where we've seen them do this with other Asian characters they brought over from Japan. Some of them are fine. Asuka is quite the personality. She says a handful of things and gets her character over. Kishida's starting to do that now too, which is fun to see him evolve in that way. But I think WWE is it's bigger than just the match. It is the character. You bring up the entrance is a very, very important thing to the American wrestling audience, how you present yourself. Even though we get to see it over and over again, people want to see Karrion Kross come out and have his big song and have Scarlett dance around him. And they want to have once you become a real star, I think you have to have a special entrance. And this is a star that had a lot of hype. So is the bloom off the rose already? No, that Saito suplex is going to make anyone remember her at the end of the night.
Yeah. Oh, completely agree. One of my favorite matches of last night's NXT was actually Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa going up against the grizzled young
I'll say this was my favorite match of the two nights of AEW NXT. This was the match. Steven Chambers texted and said, "I got my shoe. Lol. GYV lost to Ciampa and Thatcher. Yes." When fans don't like grizzled young veterans,
take your shoes off.
Take your shoes off and throw your shoes at them. If someone knows the root of this, I don't know where this came from. I know this started in NXT UK. It probably has something to do with soccer hooligan culture. Loved it. And because what happened was there was a scuffle at ringside in this frenetic match with two great solid single stars who hated each other and now become, compatriots against GYV. And certainly whoever wins this is going to build themselves up to a tag team title shot. So GYV saying they're going to be tag team champions again, even though they failed a whole bunch of times, but you're going to get banger from them. So I guess that is reasonable. They knock off Wade Barrett's shoe at ringside, his size 15 shoe, and then use this dress shoe, which is heavy sole, and crack what happened GYV with it. That was a great when the ref's back is turning into a submission finisher. I believe that's how it went. But I know it led into a different move. I don't mind it. It's kind of goofy, but it wasn't too goofy. It wasn't too noisy. It loved. Yeah, it plays into the storyline of what they've been talking about. Maybe this happened on Raw or SmackDown. People are like, this is ridiculous. They're throwing tomatoes on Raw. Now we have people getting hit with shoes.
See, but the way that it was done, it was a whole, because it was just inconspicuous, because you couldn't tell he had a shoe until he had a shoe in his hand. And then when he knocked him off the back of his head, and then he hid the shoe behind his back, and then he had the audacity to call the referee over to raise his hand and still sticks the shoe right behind his back while he's going it. And then when the referee lets go of his hand, he puts the shoe back out and he's like, oh, and it was great. It was great. Tomatoes, yeah. I'm not so happy about. Shoe, give me more.
Okay. What about grizzled young veterans, though? They lose a match by getting hit with a shoe.
I'm so upset about that because I am a huge fan of GYV, and they are not getting their due. They need to get their due sometime soon.
Yeah, and they're heels,
need to get them. Yes.
They're heels, they're villains. But also, like, Thatcher and Ciampa are singles guys. And whenever they've wrestled together, it comes off just like, we don't have anything going on for these guys individually. So let's put them. Yes, James Espanto, great comment.
Who throws a shoe? Honestly.
Who throws a shoe? A great Austin Powers reference.
Honestly, who throws a shoe?
Comment of the night, a great movie reference. If you can beat that, that is the challenge. You have to beat that before the end of the night. You have a few minutes to beat that on-point sports, that on-point movie reference, if you can do it.
LA Knight also racking up the W's last night against Jake Atlas, making his return. Hasn't been on TV for several weeks. It was good to see Jake Atlas, but LA Knight was able to get the win, a solid, clean win on the matter of fact, because there was no shenanigans in this one. So LA Knight got a clean one on this one. Legado Fantasma also had a promo, had some words for Kushida, setting up a title match for next week. It's going to be a 2 out of 3 falls for the Cruiserweight Championship next week. Kushida versus Santos Escobar. This is going to be a banger. It's going to be a classic. Who is your early pick on this one, Kev?
I would feel really disappointed if Kushida finally gets his decoration. Several years now into NXT, several injuries, coming over with the Phantom of the New Japan behind him, all of that nerddom, all that support. We finally get one of the best wrestlers in the world, and you're going to lose a whole lot of big matches. And we're going to build you up, and you're going to lose a whole lot of big matches. The time splitter hopefully split the difference by winning this title. I think it's too early to take the belt off him.
I agree.
It's 2 out of 3 falls. Lends itself to a lot of shenanigans. You have Santos Escobar, this evil ruler, this vaguely hinting towards cartel leader who has his two goons with him.
Bro.
Yeah, he's the emperor who has his goons with him as well. So I don't know. I'm 50-50 about him getting out with the belt, but I think it'd be too early. It'd be too early to take the belt off Kushida.
You know what? I think, to be honest, I think it's time for Kushida to stay there as Cruiserweight champion for a while. And it's time for Santos to make his move to either the North American or the NXT championship, to be honest, just because I think he can do it. I think he's talented enough. He has enough charisma. We know he has the in-ring talent. He put on a hell of a banger of a match against Karrion Kross when they faced each other. So I think he may lose this match. It's probably going to be close. We may see some shenanigans. If he wins, great. I'll be happy. If he loses, I'm not going to be disappointed.
I think I have a better idea for Santos Escobar. I think my nose is up. I don't know why I became all of a sudden snotty like that. Everyone, do this. When it becomes I say SmackDown. You called some names up to SmackDown recently. They had Mansoor sign with Raw. I think Santos Escobar, maybe even with Legado del Fantasma, his entire group, going to SmackDown. I think SmackDown needs some fresh intake. They need some fresh faces to be added there. I think Santos getting into it with another prominent Latin American superstar, Rey Mysterio, would be very interesting. Now, they're doing the Rey Mysterio and Dominic thing, and they have them chase for the tag belts. But if they wanted Santos and his goons waiting for him on the other side of winning that tag,
that story writes itself, though. That story just writes itself, just for the fact that let's just assume in a perfect universe where Kevin and Jose are booking the matches and the storylines, right?
We got the $1 million pencil.
So assuming that Dominic and Rey Mysterio become SmackDown Tag Team Champions, right? Legado del Fantasma comes up to SmackDown. You have Joaquin and you have Raul Mendoza challenge for those tag team championships, take the belts off, cause so much friction and so much animosity between each other to really prove to who really is the king of Lucha Libre, that Rey Mysterio challenges Santos Escobar on the one-on-one feud to see who is the true emperor of Lucha Libre. And on the final match, Mask versus Career.
I've always wanted to see the Mask versus Hair match. I know it is the traditional. But this will be the traditional blow off in Mexico.
This could be a Mask versus Hair too, because Santos got the long, beautiful locks. So you could do a Mask versus Hair. So I mean, the story writes itself. I think that's a great matchup.
So we got great episodes, obviously, of AEW. I thought AEW was very much, you got your blood and guts match, and it was wild, and it felt like a pay-per-view match on TV. Though I did think the ending was, but it got to the result you needed. MJF needs to be a no good, absolute shill of a human being, and we need to not.
In the words of Jim Ross,
and we need a break from Chris Jericho, and they need to let these young dogs ride on their own for a little bit. And then Jericho could come back and get these guys, and beat them up a little bit. Was it the best War Games match of all time? No, but AEW certainly has a ton of great forward momentum and an interesting scenario with Kenny Omega holding those titles. I'll give him a break, but I've seen better episodes of Dynamite overall. But you got your blood and guts match. You can't really complain that much. The cage looked beautiful. Thumbs up for them. Thumbs up for NXT.
Absolutely. I thought they were both good shows this week. I honestly think that NXT probably was better because of the title change and the significance behind the title change. And Blood and Guts was primarily the Blood and Guts match. That was really much it. There was really nothing else, besides some of the other stuff that we talked about at the top of the show that were just some, noteworthy things like QT and Cody. But it was all really about Blood and Guts. We know that. I mean, it took up the second hour of AEW Dynamite. So that's what it really is all about. But the most important thing here, guys, is that we win because we're the fans and we get to consume all of this.
All right, hang on now. James Espanto, this is ridiculous. We brought up a hair versus mask match as a potential scenario that we would like to fantasy book. And James, faithful follower of the show, I see many of the different people. If you're a new fan of the show, jump into the comments, even if you're watching on demand. All right, James texted in and says, shame on you both. No one should lose their hair, referencing a wrestling match. You should know how that feels, JK. Hey, James, knock it off, all right? I have to live with this every day. I have to live with my big, giant, beautiful head, all right? A head that stresses. I walk into a store where they sell hats. People get scared because they're like, it's going to be a lot of work with this guy, all right? I got a big old head with a lot of ideas in it, and apparently I'm wasting them on you. So, all of that ridiculousness here. A lot of people with different You want to take a couple questions? You want to take a couple questions?
Absolutely. Let's take a couple questions before
Fire
we head
off.
out.
If you guys got questions about anything going on in the world of wrestling, you've been with us for 50 minutes. We'll get a couple in here. I love you guys. You guys are really, really good to everything we're doing here. Once again, Inside Cradle premieres tomorrow. We will be dropping that on podcast apps. We will also kind of like build out the podcast channel and include more of the live streams you guys see or more of the interviews. But starting with Inside Cradle, that'll be dropping. That'll also be available as a video live stream as well. And on demand, you'll be able to get an audio podcast app. So get ready for that. That app is going to drop soon, and we're going to have that out for you guys there. So getting these questions here. Should Dominic Mysterio, we brought up the Mysterios. Jeffrey wants to know, should Dominic take out his father, Rey Mysterio, to stand on his own? I don't get the impression that that's going to happen. They seem like the feel-good team on SmackDown right now. It seems like they're building towards these guys. They've cut several promos. I interviewed Rey Mysterio in late 2018, I want to say, while he was rehabbing from an injury, and he outright said the entire purpose of this WWE run that I'm doing, that I believe is the final run of my career, is to get my son ready to become an even bigger superstar than myself, and that I want to have some type of special moment with him at WrestleMania. Didn't get to have that this year. Really, really didn't get to have this year. A 2-night WrestleMania, and they got cut. But you bring up some very emotional things. I've heard some people say that as well, that they want to see Dominic just turn on their father. A lot of people with daddy issues want to see Dominic beat up Rey Mysterio.
I wonder what that says about our audience. I mean, it's like, wow.
We love you. We love you.
We love you regardless. It's okay.
We all got issues. You know, we all. It's like Jose and I can't grow hair on our heads. What do you got? What's your thing?
It's a choice, Kevin. It's a choice. Okay.
It's a choice. It's a choice
that I didn't have a choice in.
God made the choice for us. That's what happened here. Other questions here. What do you feel about Cueto coming back to the Azteca Underground? I don't know that question.
Did you ever watch Lucha Underground back in the day?
Way behind, but that's a show you can binge. I've met some people recently.
Great show.
Like, I'm not feeling WWE. AEW lost me at some point, and they started binging on that.
Lucha Underground is amazing. It's the first 3 seasons are awesome, but Dario Cueto is the guy that plays the owner of Lucha Underground.
Yeah, I know the character.
Yeah, so it looks like, I don't know if they're doing like a revamp of a Lucha Underground, calling it Azteca Underground. I don't know, but I'm gonna have to look into that.
That's let's not offend the rights, but still be able to use the characters from this pre-scripted show. Diamond Mine. These promos have been running here on NXT, teasing the idea of a new, for lack of a better phrase, elite group of athletes for WWE NXT. Now, some people are thinking that this is Tessa Blanchard. Now, on a recent episode of Top Stories from Sportskeeda Wrestling, go check it out. We posted this a couple days ago. Feels like years. The amount of content we're doing right now. We've gone from having 5 videos out a week to a dozen pieces of content. So definitely follow what we're doing here. We popped the bubble on this rumor that Tessa Blanchard was talking to AEW. That has been squashed by PWI Insider. And furthermore, doesn't seem like there's any plans to bring her into NXT, even though some people think this Diamond Mine area, this is just a fan discussion thing. Enough fans say it, so it has to be true. Other people, James wanting to know, do you think that she's going to show up in UFC in AEW NXT? Doesn't seem like that's the case. Anthony Bruno is saying the Diamond Mine is Dustin Poirier from the UFC. I don't know about that. I would be surprised if we saw him make the jump into pro wrestling in WWE. Be very surprised. I've heard some people say Marina Shafir, who is under a WWE contract,
and Jessamine Duke as well.
Jessamine Duke, and they have that UFC background. They are elite level. That's kind of the illusion, the idea of that these are diamond characters, diamonds in the rough, if you will. Like they're lost in this mix of talent. Now they're going to break out.
This is NXT, Kev. Is diamond in the rust.
Mm-hmm. Another character I've heard a lot of people speculate could be a part of that is Parker Bordeaux. Parker Bordeaux has gotten quite the attention on himself as a social media darling who was a standout in college football and just went on social media and embrace the idea that people say he looks like a little baby version of Brock Lesnar, and he does, just with a lot more tattoos and some dyed hair. He's also been, hanging out with Eva Marie, and then they've been alluding to that, and some people thought they would be a tandem in WWE. That is not the case. Parker Bordeaux could be a part of this. I don't know. I see him being utilized in NXT first before we see him on Raw or SmackDown. We haven't seen the guy wrestle a whole lot, and he already has he's making a whole lot of noise online. Maybe
he's part of Diamond Mine.
Yeah, so I would think there's a possibility of that, because you have this guy coming in with, that college football pedigree. Though, WWE has a lot of different people they've pulled from college sports, since the beginning of time. So it can be seen here.
Here's a good one here. He's Jose, how do you feel about your favorite heel return, Jinder Mahal, with a new stable? And can Diamond Mine be Malcolm Bivens and Tyler Rust repackaged? See, that's what I told you, because it's a diamond in the rust. Anyways.
More Malcolm Bivens on TV, please. Malcolm Bivens is like...
Yeah, we need more Malcolm Bivens.
He's an incredible talent and an incredible personality. I would love it. But what do you think, man?
I am ecstatic to see Jinder, the modern day Maharaja, return to WWE TV. Man, he made his return on Monday night in the tapings for Main Event. He came as Indusher, and Shanky came out. So it looks like he's got his own little Indian faction, Indian version of the Shield, maybe, or Indian version of the NWO. But he's looking good. He's looking extra ripped, and I am excited to see Jinder back. Can we get Jinder versus Drew? I want to see it.
Here's a question before we get out of here. People say they should be called Punjabi Power. I don't know about that. We'll see what name they get. They need a cool name. Definitely when you have a faction, you have to have a cool name. You get a bad faction name, it's a death to your faction. Here we go. Finish off with this one. Jeffrey Young, get another one in here. Jeff, this is a hard question. Should Cesaro turn heel? Does he need help from Edge to beat Roman Reigns? I'm going to say Cesaro is going to get the shot at Roman Reigns here at WrestleMania Backlash. He's gonna give Roman a go, and Roman is gonna come out and be big time Roman. Remember, big time John, big match Roman. Roman doesn't wrestle a whole lot, but when he does, it means a whole lot, as we saw this past Friday with him sending Daniel Bryan out of the WWE, not just out of SmackDown, apparently. And that was a great match, and he had a great match at WrestleMania, and I think Cesaro is a guy who doesn't have bad matches, but Roman Reigns is winning this match. I don't think Cesaro needs to turn heel to do that, but I do wonder if Edge plays a role in the outcome of this match, because he's seething about not winning his precious world title back.
Yeah, I don't think Cesaro needs to turn heel. I honestly like babyface Cesaro better than heel Cesaro. I think he does way better.
He's been healed so often.
He's been healed so often. And even though he does good heel stuff in ring, I feel he's a better babyface. And he does not need Edge to beat Roman. Let me remind everyone that Roman pinned both Edge and Daniel Bryan. He stacked them, he pinned them, and he dominated. So what makes you think that Cesaro is going to win if he turns heel? I don't think so. I think he can get a win at some point, not right now, at some point against Roman Reigns. But Roman Reigns is just on the hottest streak right now in his career. So, especially after last week's match against Daniel Bryan.
Definitely. Thank you guys so much for checking out the show. We got you for nearly an hour of your day, 1/24 of your day was spent with us watching and enjoying wrestling, and we are so thankful for that time. It isn't something we take for granted, especially during a pandemic. No matter where you're enjoying the show, we hope you guys are staying safe. We have a lot of listeners, a lot of viewers in India, and the numbers we hear from there are staggering and crazy and sad. Though we do hear about great things here in the United States and North America with vaccinations, we hope you're finding your source for vaccination and doing it safely, so we can get back to the matches and we get back to doing fun things like me doing a weather report with Jose from a football stadium, which is what we got to do at WrestleMania. Stay safe, everybody.
That was fun.
That was a whole lot of fun. You can follow him on the Twitter machine where.
At Jose G Official. Let me bring that up. Let me get this banner out of here.
Pull it up. Ooh. Get him up there. All right. Pull up the new banners. Pull up those new tags. You can follow me on the Twitter machine as well at Kev Callum. I'm on Instagram at KevCallum6. if you're an Instagram person. And also check out the Instagram for Sportskeeda is awesome. We have a lot of clips that we're putting up there. So if you missed the show, you want to check something out. Also, Inside Cradle debuting tomorrow, an exclusive interview with Drew McIntyre. Also, we have some big interviews coming up from Impact Wrestling. The Podfather of Pro Wrestling Podcasts, also coming to Sportskeeda. And we have fresh interviews you can devour, like our unscripted episode this week with Adam Baum, a guy who was a big part of 90s wrestling, who kind of got out of the business. We got to hear some really great old school stories. If you're a fan of a certain age, definitely check out the episode of Unscripted this week with him and Dr. Chris Featherstone, available now on the Sportskeeda YouTube page. Thank you guys so much for watching. We've been through the last minute schedule changes. We've been through our own proverbial blood and guts, and we're getting through it. We're seeing light at the other side of the tunnel. All right. We're shaking them ropes like Ultimate Warrior in 1990. Humanity is going to come back and fire up and slam that big, nasty COVID giant. And when we're watching wrestling, tell them what we're going to do, Jose. Tell them.
We're going to enjoy wrestling.
Enjoy it.